Tracy is with us. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hello, Jimmy.
Yay. So,
Yay. Yay for us.
yay for us. So, you've been doing some great work on. I've been following your Twitter feed, and you've got some great insights and observations about Trump and the press, and Jim Acosta, and what's been going on. And you've got a real unique point of view that lines up with the point of view of this show. And that's why I'm having you on. So most recently, we have the Jim Acosta has been his credentials have been taken away. He can't go to the White House anymore to report. Jim Acosta from CNN. Now, I've made the point before that Jim Acosta is a grandstander, and in fact, I've been told that after he gets upset, that the Trump people at Trump rallies are yelling at him and swearing at him and flipping him off, that when the cameras are turned off, he actually takes pictures with them and talks to them, and everybody gets along fine. I've been told that. Have you heard that, Michael?
I've seen reports of that. I have.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
I think the way to try to understand what's going on with Jim Acosta, to the extent that you even want to bother thinking about him at all, and if you don't, I don't really blame you, is that his function isn't so much to provide journalism, it's to provide entertainment. He is a TV celebrity. So therefore, what he's going to do is try to attempt stunts and attempt little charades that generate a lot of attention, a lot of social media activity, and a lot of TV ratings. That is his function. His function isn't to do what the traditional purpose of journalism is, which is just to hold powerful people to account. And so that's the prism through which all his actions should be understood. Now, he's not the only celebrity TV journalist who is trying to create a spectacle, but he's become the most high-profile one because he's this weird foil for Trump, because Trump gets annoyed by him. And whoever Trump happens to get annoyed by, that creates this kind of like countervailing reaction where that person, no matter how awful they are, they get rallied around by liberals who are desperate for any kind of like anti-hero. So that's, I think, how to think about Acosta. He's not performing acts of journalism. He's performing acts of celebrity spectacle.
Michael, what I think what people are missing is that what Jim Acosta's doing is helping CNN's ratings, and it helps Jim Acosta become more of a celebrity. And it's like catnip to the hashtag resistance. But what they don't realize, what the resistance doesn't realize, I think, is that it's helping Trump. That the reason why people voted for Trump, or one of the big reasons why, is because Trump was an outsider who was going to stick a thumb in the eye of the establishment. So when he says to CNN, "You're fake news," and Jim Acosta, "Shut up and sit down," that works for him. That's not going to hurt Trump. And first of all, so I want to play one more video, and it's the video today of Trump went after, he was asked a question about the new attorney general, and if the new attorney general is going to rein in the Mueller investigation. And what's the reporter's name? Abby Phillip. So Abby Phillip is asking him about Whitaker, and if the new attorney general is going to rein in the Mueller investigation. And here's what happened.
Do you expect Matt Whitaker to be involved in the Russia probe? Do you want him to?
It's up to him.
Do you want him to rein in Robert Mueller?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
So a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, there's going to be a lot of pearl clutching over that, right? He told the reporters that you ask a stupid question, and you ask a lot of stupid. So there's going to be a lot of pearl. And what this does is it helps Trump. Trump is being seen, half the country thinks that, at least half the country thinks that the Russiagate is complete bogus and made up. And so this place, so she's asking a question about that. She's asking all these, And so when he gets tough or when he gets rude with the press, that plays well for him and his base, and it doesn't hurt him. What do you think about that, Michael?
Here's a really important way in which that exchange helps Trump. He happens to be correct. That was a stupid question, and CNN asks a lot of stupid questions. Trump is correct in observing that. Trump is not correct when he extrapolates CNN's stupid questions into this generalized contempt for everybody in the media. But he is correct in the narrow circumstance of noting that CNN has a tendency of asking stupid questions. CNN is not alone in asking stupid questions, but nonetheless, Donald Trump is correct to observe that CNN's asked stupid questions. So why is that important? It's because for almost the entirety of his term now, and even dating back to the presidential campaign, Trump's disdain for the media has neutered left-wing criticism of the media, because it used to be the province of the left to put forth a critique of media that said corporate media functions in such a manner that it does a disservice to the population. It's not interested in public-spirited, defenses of the common good. It's not interested in generally holding people to account. It's interested in ratings and clicks and retweets and TV commercials and selling ad time and all that. But that critique has really gone away, or at least it's gone much more beneath the surface than it had been, because the idea is, if you also point out that, hey, CNN, you are kind of stupid. You do ask dumb questions. Maybe you're not the enemy of the people, but like you're the enemy of, I don't know, sanity and rationality. That means somehow you're in league with Trump and you're validating Trump. So people are very reticent to go down that road anymore, even though it's desperately needed to point out these glaring flaws with how the media operates in this instance, CNN. So that's how it empowers Trump, because he's taken for himself this very powerful line of criticism of a major feature of American society, which is the media is kind of stupid, which a lot of people feel in their gut for very legitimate reasons. And he takes it and expresses it. And then on the other hand, he also causes people on the left who feel similarly to suppress that instinct in themselves, even though it's perfectly valid, maybe for slightly different reasons than whatever Trump blurts out on a given day. But nevertheless, it's real and it's accurate, but it's gone away because, the last thing that any respectable person is expected to do in contemporary American society is say anything that even remotely vindicates any aspect of something that Trump might do on a given day.
So I couldn't agree with you more. I find that happening to me. So, when I came from stand-up comedy. I come from, and then I started doing a radio show, a public radio show for Pacifica, KPFK here in Los Angeles. And so I started to be a part of the media, and I started to critique them. And that's been kind of like the thing we do here, is we critique the media and we critique the left politicians, right? Because we leave all the other stuff to someone else. But it's I've been getting this more and more lately, is that when I'll critique the press or criticize them, they'll say, "Oh, you sound just like Trump." And so now they're using Trump as a shield from criticism. I mean, the media. So now the establishment media is now very disingenuously, I think, using Trump's criticism of them, and somehow his criticism is supposed to be beyond the pale, and then so now I'm not allowed to criticize them either, because then people say, "Oh, you sound like Trump." Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have noticed it. And another really insidious element of this is that there are a lot of people who, for better or worse, became newly politicized as a result of the 2016 election and the Trump presidency. They were only tangentially aware of politics prior to that, and they're now becoming acclimated to how this kind of bizarre system works. And so they're also becoming acclimated for the first time with how American media and journalism works. And they're being told that CNN's daily activities are the pinnacle of adversarial journalism. They are the people on which the future of the republic depends, and we all must rally behind them against the Orange Menace. So, what are they? So let's actually elaborate on why that question that the CNN reporter asked today was stupid. It was because it was a totally news cycle driven question. It was about the new incoming, acting attorney general and what bearing he might have on the Mueller investigation. That's not a question that's going to have any relevance or anybody is going to care about probably in like 72 hours. It has no lasting implications for anything. It's totally dictated by the contingencies of what is leading the daily newscast today. And that generally is a bad line of questioning. If I were to ask Trump a question, if I had the sacred opportunity to ask the president of the United States a question, gosh, how lucky would I be? I would have a whole variety of things to legitimately question him about in an adversarial manner. And it wouldn't necessarily be incumbent on me to treat him with respect because I don't have a whole lot of respect for him. What I respect is truth. And if I can extract truth from him, then that's what would be what I would prioritize, not, humbly paying homage to his majesty. So I would ask him, I don't know, why are you presiding over an administration which has devoted substantial military resources to creating a permanent presence in Syria, while at the same time you on multiple occasions have said, at least rhetorically, that you want the U.S. out of Syria. There's an incongruity there. I haven't heard Trump ask a question along those lines ever. His entire presidency. He's relatively accessible to the media. I mean, he's doing more and more of these kind of goofy press availabilities. But these people who are, in this kind of hallowed a group of the press corps have no sense of discernment. They have no interest in matters like this. All they're interested in is furthering these kind of very fleeting news cycle-y type questions and back and forth, and they want to elicit anger from Trump because they know that'll do well on TV and on the internet. And so that's why it's a stupid question. It's not a stupid question because Trump is being challenged or Trump ought not to be challenged. He ought to be challenged, but he ought to be challenged by people who are intelligent and who know things and who have incentives other than let's feed Wolf Blitzer something juicy to talk about, today at 4:00 on CNN. So that's why it's stupid, and that's why it's so unfortunate. It's genuinely, legitimately unfortunate as somebody who wants the media to be vibrant and adversarial and intelligent and thoughtful for people who are, who's like a 17-year-old who maybe wants to do journalism later on in life to look at somebody like Jim Acosta or that woman CNN reporter and say, that's what I want to emulate. No, that's what you should not emulate that. Do the opposite. And sadly, if they were to emulate it would probably be successful for them. And that's why media is just getting worse and worse.
So I think what is a weird phenomena to me is that the left seems to be rallying around anybody Trump seems to hate. So Trump doesn't like Jim Acosta. And now the left is rallying around Jim Acosta, and what reveals this to be theater and hip and just a circus, and what makes the press's rallying around Jim Acosta to me seem insincere, or just self-serving, is the fact that there's a real journalist right now who's actually being prosecuted, and they never mention him, which is Julian Assange. Julian Assange is one of the greatest whistleblowers of all time, certainly of our generation, and not one of those reporters gives a crap about Julian Assange. They never mention him. All they care about is Jim Acosta's grandstanding bullshit. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, I think that's true, but for a host of reasons, Julian Assange has baggage, rightly or wrongly, that I think forces people to put him into a separate category. So let's even take an easier example of a journalist who's not venerated to the extent that he should be, at least relative to the current TV celebrities. Seymour Hersh. Okay? Seymour Hersh, among the most accomplished journalists in the history of the United States. It's just incredible when you look at his career, the number of just absolutely vital stories that he's broken up, leading up until today, essentially. He's in it. He's in his I believe 70s or late 70s, early 80s. So he's at the end of his career. He wrote a memoir, chronicling all this recently. And did you see him? I guess he got some mainstream press attention because they're sort of forced to, because a lot of the stories that he's broken are like now kind of central to the American folklore.
Like the My Lai massacre, he broke
right.
that.
Abu Ghraib and some others. But he doesn't get this kind of marquee adulation in the way that somebody like Jim Acosta did or Bob Woodward did. It seems like light years ago, but just in September, Bob Woodward sold more books than I think the Bible has sold, over the course of like 2 millennia or something, because people felt that they were making a statement by buying this book, which is going to end up in the bargain bin a month later. So they spend $24.95 on it to like stick it to Trump when they're all they're really doing is enriching HarperCollins or whoever the publisher was. And that Bob Woodward book, which I had the misfortune of actually reading because I wrote about it, it is like there's nothing about it that actually evinces any kind of critical scrutiny on the part of Woodward. It was just, let's get at all this gossip out here that's kind of unsubstantiated and juicy and is tailored to create a couple news cycles worth of intrigue, and be done with it. Does anyone even remember the Bob Woodward book? It wasn't that long ago. It was like 2 months ago.
Right.
And at the time, it was supposed to be this groundbreaking, triumph of journalism that was going to change the course of history, when in fact it changed the course of nothing. It was just crap. And so, but nevertheless, Bob Woodward got all the accolades. He got all the money because it was an insanely successful book. And Seymour Hersh, who actually has contributed a lot to holding politicians genuinely to account, exposing the faults of the American political system, of the American military system, etc. Nowhere near the level of stratospheric success that Woodward had, at least commercially. So that dichotomy, I think, is really, really instructive. And it's incredibly unfortunate, but I think it's another product of this idea that anybody who irritates Trump on a given week must have some virtue to him or her, and therefore deserves to be rallied around, deserves to be, feeded across TV, deserves to have money thrown at him because, Trump is irritated. Trump is irritated by anybody who insults his hair. I mean, he's probably the pettiest person since, I don't know, who's the pettiest person ever. So you're imitating his pettiness by saying, if you are annoying to Trump, I like you. That's almost as petty as what Trump himself does. So that's the kind of perverse dynamic I think that people need to get beyond, but won't because it's too intoxicating.
I saw people tweeting out that video of Abby Phillips' question to Trump that you just said was a bad question, and they're retweeting that video saying every reporter should ask this question, every reporter should stick together, and
oh my God, every journalist should express their solidarity with this White House press corps. Excuse me, as if they are the most deserving journalists for solidarity. These people who are, they're basically, they're the epitome of access journalists. Their livelihood depends on the government granting them access to this prestigious little room where they can go in and feel great about themselves and kind of preen on camera and pretend like asking Trump a question that, is substance free actually does some kind of public service, which it doesn't. That's what people don't get. By demanding journalists to rally around these people, you're asking them to rally around the people who practice the lowest form of journalism, which is pure access journalism. Literally, you need physical access to that building in order to do what they do. So you're not. It's the dumbest and most performative form of journalism. Yet there's this sense going around that you're not upholding the duty of a free press if you don't immediately say, yes, I stand with Jim Acosta at this hour of need. No, I mean, I stand against him because he's stupid. And I don't stand with Trump by saying that.
So,
Jimmy, I just really want to point out, do you remember when Katie Tour mentioned when Jorge Ramos was thrown out of the press conference? Katie Tour turns to the camera and says, hey, that bouncer, he was a nice guy. Where was the press then? And I don't remember seeing Jim Acosta say anything about Jorge being thrown out, and I don't recall the press rallying together around Jorge Ramos. Am I wrong?
no, you are correct. That's a great point, I think. Well, why do you think this is happening now and it didn't happen with Jorge Ramos?
My recollection is that it did happen to some extent with Jorge Ramos. I don't know. I mean, all these TV journalists are kind of the same ilk. They all do similar thing. They're trying to make a show and make a point, and I think it's really sad that they are the face of modern journalism because it gives people the wrong impression about what journalism is. You know, I told you before we got on the air that I happen to be in Michigan. I go out and I try to talk to people and like eavesdrop and stuff. And I heard just ordinary folks sitting around in a diner. I'm not going to say that this is necessarily representative of all voter sentiment in Heartland America, but whatever. It's my own like personal experience. And I've heard people chatting about Jim Acosta, and I hear them saying, this is what the state of journalism has become. They're showboats. They only care about themselves. They're not actually giving genuine information to the public. They just want to make a grandstand. And I think to myself, I take personal offense to the idea that this man, who I happen to be sitting near in a restaurant, looks at Jim Acosta and says, that guy is the face of modern journalism. No, he's not. He's the face of a certain element of TV entertainment culture that masquerades as journalism. But otherwise well-intentioned people in the media have no interest in making that distinction for people. So they elevate Acosta as the face of journalism because they want this week's foil for Trump. There's always a search for who's the next foil for Trump that we can kind of like absolve of sin and pretend is like without flaw because it has certain political utility in the present moment. I find the whole thing really disgusting and really disconcerting.
I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but at one point during the Trump administration, they told them to turn off their cameras in the press room, and they did. Do you remember that?
In the White House,
yes,
in the White House,
yes.
I don't know if I remember that. I guess my like short-term memory of all these press imbroglios is like atrophying because they all kind of melt together as just like a single shitstorm that doesn't actually mean anything, and it's just like what people like to get upset about, but has no long-term impact on anything that's important. So I don't know. I guess there's like some cognitive faculty within me that's like blending it all together because it's not important enough to like actually register in my mind for some reason.
Yeah, well, that is what happened, and that's
what the people who are in the White House press room are. They're docile because they've submitted to the process to obtain access to that little room that once you get to, it's like a big deal. You're in the Super Bowl of journalism. By necessity, in order to have gotten there, you had to have gone through a state-approved process whereby you are included in this little elite circle. So it's not surprising that they would follow direction if they're told to turn off a camera because there's huge economic incentive behind them remaining in that room so they can feed out these pointless little stand-up segments where they're, holding a microphone and there's like lots of exciting stuff going on behind them and activity, and they think that this is like they're standing there and wow, like my aunt and my cousin are going to see this. And I feel really good about my life trajectory having gotten here. No, your life trajectory like went wrong like 8 years ago when you decided that like this was somehow a fruitful use of your time. Do something that's genuinely adversarial, meaning, I don't know, file some public records requests. do something. I don't know. Volunteer at a soup kitchen. I don't care what it is. Just don't go to that place anymore because it doesn't do anything useful in terms of public service. It only validates your unearned, grandiose self-conception.
All right, Michael Tracy, thanks for lending us your opinion. I appreciate it. And everybody check out Michael Tracy on Twitter.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy.
Our next live Jimmy Dore show is February 1st in Burbank, California. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a list of all our live shows, and please become a premium member if you can. Become a patron. It's the way we support this show because they're coming at us, and we give you bonus. We give you hours of bonus material every week. Check it out. Become a patron. And if you can, make sure you're still subscribed. They unsubscribe people every day. I know it sounds crazy. It only takes a second. Please make sure and click that bell when you subscribe so they'll send you a note.